reaching in a little bit though. I'm in the car right now. I'm trying to get back to my.
Where are we at? Reykjavik? Is that what that's called? The flight was overbooked, so he took a later flight for the $500. Hey Patrick, how was the flight?
Oh, it was great. Always a good time.
The AMA Vintage Motorcycles Days is held at the Mid-Ohio Racecourse. They have scheduled track days for motorcycles and cars alike. From the Dayton Airport, Patrick and I headed east I-70 and north on I-71 to Lexington, Ohio. If you have never been, there are events with dirt bikes, vintage track racing, the Wall of Death, which is located behind our motorcycles in the red and white tent. One attraction is the acres of vintage motorcycles and motorcycle parts. Dealer demonstration teams also come out to this event. This year, Triumph, Indian, and Royal Enfield brought their motorcycles out for us to try. The Royal Enfield demonstration team had an organized ride that would take us outside of the event area. They would have an instructor in the front and in the back and take between 6 and 10 riders on what is probably a half-hour ride. So you got a feel for the bike. So the dealer demonstration teams had a couple of requirements, and of course one is to register. They wanted to know who was taking their motorcycles, and they had to have the proper endorsement. And secondly, they wanted to have you covered head to toe, closed-toe shoes, pants, some sort of long sleeve shirt or jacket, and of course your helmet. There was absolutely no charge for as many bikes as you've ridden, and I think between Patrick and I we did over a dozen bikes in total. So one thing I have to say about the demonstration team is that they were very nice with us, and even when they were packing up, they just said go ahead and take both Hemis, and we rode around the parking lot as you can see in the background. So these are brand new 2022 motorcycles with less than 1,000 miles on them, set up the way the factory had intended. And it was a bit disappointing because this is what everybody's been talking about on the forums. It did stall several times. Remember, these motorcycles have just been ridden all day. We started around 9 a.m. and they were cleaning up at 3 p.m. And Patrick even was experiencing the same thing. I really regret not getting that on video. The second thing is when we were riding in the parking lot, we would kind of like put it in neutral on the short ends, hit it in second gear, and just turn that throttle full. And now on my Himalayan, you'd actually feel a pull and just drive away. On these Himalayans, it's almost like the engine was trying to search for what to do. It was really disappointing, and I don't know if I would have purchased the bike full knowing that that was the way it was going to ride. The 462cc big bore kit and the camshaft really was a no-brainer at this point. It really wakes up the engine. The engine responds so much better. It really is worth the extra money at this point.
All right, Patrick, how does the stock heavy compare to mine?
Slow. It's so much slower. So much.
You put it in second gear and it goes, wow. Yeah, there's no pickup there, huh? So that's great. All right, thanks. So you've been riding my 462cc Himalayan with a performance camshaft all this time, and we came here to the AMA and finally got to ride a stock Himalayan. How do they compare?
Completely slow, completely different. The stock Himalayan does not have a high bandwidth. You get past 30s at shore, and it's just so slow. It's so bad.
Is there more torque with the other bike?
Yeah, way more torque, way more power, quicker shifts, everything. Completely different ride.
Thanks. Hey, do you remember when we were at AMA and you rode that stock Himalayan from the Royal Enfield demo team?
Yes.
Did you have any problems when you first started up the bike and then tried to ride it out?
It stalled when it was at low, when it was cold, and
But people have been riding it all day, so it's still stalled on you?
it's still stalled.
All right.
So Patrick and I were on the road again. This time he rode the Trident 660 and I rode my Himalayan. This time we were traveling to Columbus, Ohio to meet with Dylan over the Throttle Company. Dylan was going to ride my Himalayan and he provided us with a couple demo bikes that we could ride. Patrick chose the Moto Guzzi V7. I chose the Moto Guzzi V9. Dylan's there on the left-hand side on my Himalayan, as we got to ride out in the wonderful Friday evening weather. Dylan has a pre-planned route in which all the demo riders will be riding in, and to show you a quick example of that is this clip here. It's been sped up. It has many turns and several straightaways, so you get a really good feel of any motorcycle that you're taking out for a demonstration. As you can see, I'm actually on one of his Himalayans in this ride. So depending on the traffic, the demo rides can last between 15 and 20 minutes long. So I came back on Saturday for the Kickstands and Coffee event without Patrick. He had a plane to catch. This morning I'll be riding Dylan's demonstration Himalayan. I'm riding with Ken Paul. He's leading a group of us through the same demonstration course Dylan rode my motorcycle in the night before. I tested the capabilities of this motorcycle. I found that the engine was very responsive when I was aggressive on the throttle. It certainly didn't bog down like the last demo motorcycle. So it was really a treat to be able to ride a stock Himalayan set up as nice as this motorcycle was. To give you an idea of what we're talking about, this bike has, of course, about 247.7 miles on it. This was the first time it was ridden since it sat overnight. I was the first rider of the day to demo it. And when you turn the key and you hit the throttle, it just idles. You'll see that I moved the throttle a little bit because I thought that's what you had to do. Let's listen to that idle.
How's that? Am I recording? Am I? Okay. I didn't know if they're waiting for me.
They are.
Good.
So after the ride, I spoke with Ken about why the Royal Enfield demonstration Himalayan and Dylan's demonstration Himalayan are so different. And we kind of arrived to the conclusion that maybe Royal Enfield themselves are in denial that the bike may have to be set up in a different manner. Dylan has a video on his channel describing what he does to make the Himalayans run better, and he doesn't make it any secret on what he does. And we saw him preparing a bike in the last video, and I definitely put things at the end of this video. He does that to all new owner bikes that are going out from his shop. Right now I'm riding the Moto Guzzi V85 TT. It is just as comfortable as my Tiger 800, and it has a lot more torque.
Tell us, how does it compare to a stock Himalayan?
It definitely has more power. I also feel like a lot of it, I forgot you said the 16 tooth. Because I remember you said that. I didn't know if you actually put it on yet or whatever. But that made a big difference. I felt like sort of giving you power throughout the whole range. You know, you have that low end torque with the cam and the big bore, obviously. But then maybe the gearing was why when I first got off, I thought there's a lot of power on the top end. Maybe that's why. The street tires, I thought, made a huge difference. You didn't mention that, but you have the Michelin Anarchy, not the Anarchy Adventure, and those are
The
more
Anarchy 3s.
Yeah, even more street oriented.
These are the 90-10 street trail bike tires, like gravel. My wife loves it because parking lots will have some gravel on it, or they seem to work very well in water too.
Oh, definitely. I think that's really where they shine. Obviously, it doesn't matter today, but the street tires and the Himalayan, I think it's such a it's interesting because it's not meant to turn well, but it does. It gives you confidence. And the street tires, man, I've never ridden a Himalayan with that street-oriented tires. So that made a huge difference.
Now, one of the big things I like about the street tires is that you steer the Himalayan below the hip. I mean, it's almost like you just move your waist and it goes where you want it to go.
And this bike is significantly lower. That I felt right away. I just kind of felt like almost squatting down like a cruiser or something.
So it's got the 4 centimeter Himalayan tool drop link kit on there. Plus the front forks have been lowered to compensate to maintain the geometry. The Anarchy tires in diameter are just a little bit smaller than the stock. What is it, Midas?
The stock ones, well, they're either seat or is that what you're talking about, the tires?
Yeah, the stock tires.
Yeah, they're either seat tires or they used to be Pirelli MT60s.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people put the Midas MT07s or whatever.
Okay, I must have that confused.
That's a super common upgrade.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting. The clutch I thought felt great because I forgot you said that half the springs have been changed.
Yes.
And then
just to keep the pull for my wife to be manageable.
I've done that. I've done that on a vintage bike. This is a really obscure bike, but a Yamaha TS 750, and it was that was the problem we had. It kept slipping, and so I was like, the heavy-duty clutch springs were too much to pull, so we made a compromise and did half and half, and that worked out great. So it's interesting that Hitchcock recommends that.
One thing that we had, the springs was actually the first modification I did to the bike, and I noticed that the transfer from the engine to the transmission was just so much more efficient. Did you feel the same way?
Yes, yes. It was just like grabs right away. And yeah, absolutely. Definitely. You were going to say, you said you were going to keep it a secret until now, but you're going to tell me how much everything cost.
It's right up there around $2,000.
Okay.
That's the big bore kit. Had to have it sleeved by a professional. Talking the camshaft, the springs.
Power Commander.
I went with the Power Commander. Now the Power Commander is about $500, but the Fuel X is half that price. Okay. But still, you're talking finishing materials. That would be your sealants. Thread locker, a number of other things. I didn't include tools in that one. If you were to own a bike and the warranty is expired, it is going to cost you $2,000 to bring it alive. Was that something you feel is worth it?
It's funny because generally, it's hard to say because we just talked about my bike. My bike has almost $2,000 worth of extra stuff on it. So I guess that my real answer because of that is yes. But it's funny because the Himalayan I sort of think of differently, is that I don't know, if you needed to go on the highway, then the answer I guess is yes. If you love the Himalayan and you're thinking, I just need to get up to 80 miles an hour comfortably, which I think a stock Himalayan can do 80, you are really pushing it. And
I push that one in, we're talking 250 pounds of non-aerodynamic person. It will make 85 on a flat.
And I think if that is something that you just need to have, you find yourself commuting a lot, or you're getting to the kind of on-road, off-road kind of riding you want to do, and that takes you on the highway, then it feels like, yes, it obviously works to answer that part of the question. The thing is, interestingly, like for me, I feel like the Himalayan and even like the 350s are kind of that way too. They have about similar power. What it feels like, they're more back road bikes where they're 50 to 60 miles an hour, and I don't really need to go that fast. So that's, I don't know, it's a complicated answer for that, is that sometimes yes, sometimes no. If you feel like you need highway, yes. If you're never ever going to touch the highway, then maybe
What about for off-road applications, that extra torque?
obviously that wouldn't hurt.
You know, you do rev it up,
Yeah.
trying to bring it up those
yeah.
trails and stuff. I've done off-road mainly with my Triumph Tiger,
Yeah.
but I've done gravel roads with her bike.
What Tiger do you have? It's 900, right?
I have the 800.
800, okay.
The
It's a lot
XCX.
more. It's a lot more power. It's water cooled and everything, so
Yeah.
you're talking maybe 3 times the power. Yeah, I mean, extra power can't hurt, but it's a lot. It's funny to say, and people even talk about this a lot, where you're even talking about Interceptors, GTs, they're about $6,000. Himalayans about 5,000, maybe now they're like 5,300 MSRP. So adding about half the price or somewhere near there, $2,000, that's a tough choice. You know what I mean? You're suddenly taking a very inexpensive motorcycle and making it a medium range price-wise motorcycle. I always think that when people get crazy doing the GTs, I think maybe you need to just get a Thruxton, you know? So it's interesting, and the Himalayan might be that same way. Get a KLR 650 or I don't know, a used Triumph Tiger or something.
The big draw to the Himalayan is the fact that it is a short bike.
That's true. Good point.
My wife is 5'1", and we had a very rough time trying to find another bike to go from the CMX 250, the Honda Rebel, to a mid-range bike. She could sit on Sportster's 888 all day long.
Yeah.
She could even sit on the Indian Scout. A little bit of tiptoe, but I think they do have a lower kit for her.
Yeah.
But she can do it, and there was no. Would you want to go from a 250 to a
Great point.
800?
That the Himalayan in the adventure bike class isn't anything that's that low, and even then, like you said, you had to go pretty far lowering it. So yeah, your options are very, very limited. And KLR, like I mentioned, those they're very tall. Those are tall bikes.
I tiptoe on the Tiger.
Yeah. Oh, Tiger especially. Tiger's a tall bike. Yeah, any of the sort of typical adventure bikes, those are tall people bikes. So you're pretty limited. Knowing your constraints, I feel like you did a great job. I feel like for someone who's 5'1" and needs that lower seat height, and then also wants highway cruising or near there, then I think you nailed it.
Well, I really appreciate your time.
Hey,
Thank you
man.
very much.
No problem.
We've been looking for a very long time for someone to that was very familiar with the stock Himalayan, and I wanted to compare it with my bike and kind of throw it up there, because the very first question I put up there a couple years ago was, is it worth it?
Yeah.
And, you know,
I think knowing your constraints, like I said, to summarize that up and answer that question, knowing the constraints, yes. That maybe it's not worth it for everyone. It depends on what they want to do with it, but knowing what you wanted to do with it.
I'm thinking it's worth it if someone doesn't want to go into debt for another bike.
Yeah.
But
And you got it used. So that's a difference too.
Yeah.
Is if you bought used, maybe you wind up coming out about the same price.
so, well, thank you very much once
course,
again.
of course.
Appreciate your time.
So I wanted to take a minute out and talk about the Throttle Company in Columbus, Ohio. I really wanted to thank Dylan Paul for spending time with us. He was a very busy person and cut out a fair amount of time to spend with Patrick and I. and do the ride and the interview with us. And he went above and beyond and was showing us the different motorcycles in his showroom. He does have a vast and varied collection in there. The Royal Enfield is mainly supported there. He's got accessories that look really good. He owns some soft side bags himself on his Royal Enfield. He has a very large service department, and you'll see that 2 Himalayans are on the service rack right now. I believe one of them is actually going out to a customer. The kickstands and coffee event is in the morning. That was a Saturday morning I went to. I picked up a t-shirt and a tin myself. I like the tin coffee mugs, that way coffee doesn't stay very hot and you can drink it quickly. So also in the kickstands and coffee event, they have the demo bikes out and ready to go, and that was when I rode the stock Himalayan. This time I was with 2 other riders with he also has an event coming up in September. Everybody with the Royal Enfield, if you can attend, that would be wonderful. He does have a large selection of Moto Guzzi's in stock. We tried out the V7, the V9, and the V85 TT. He has a collection of vintage Japanese motorcycles. I do own one myself and really enjoy that. I limit mine to Honda, but he definitely has a variety in his collection. There's so much more in his showroom that I'm not showing you here, so feel free to visit his location. His website will be listed in the description below. Thank you.